Alrighty gang, so this is where it's going to kick up a notch. You did the adding and subtracting with complex numbers already. Now we're going to be multiplying. So you're doing a different process here. This is where it's going to be I times I becomes I squared. So just be aware it's not going to be the exact same thing you just did. You have to think about what operation you're doing. Okay, so again, quick reminder, I by itself is square root of -1. We don't really change that. But I squared is equal to -1. You are going to be changing that, but giant stars all the way around that. Seriously, you're going to need that a lot with this section. And I can guarantee you're going to forget it at least once. So make sure you've got it somewhere that is very obvious so that you can remember it. Okay, so let's drop back to just our regular variables, just kind of get ourselves used to that thought process again. When I do x times 3x minus 4, I am distributing this. Okay, because I'm multiplying, now I'm going to change the variable. 3 obviously stays the same, but x times x is, hopefully you said the correct answer, which is x squared. Okay, x times -4 just gets squished together. Okay, and then we would be done at that point if it was a variable. Okay, however, now we're kicking it up a notch. We're working with imaginary numbers. We're expanding our brains a little bit. Still is 3 in the front, still is I squared, still is -4i. Okay, so very, very similar to what we just did. However, I just told you that I squared is equal to -1. I know I also told you that I equals square root of -1, but I don't want to change it to a square root. Okay, the whole point was to get the I there. I want to change this guy though. Okay, because I just said I squared is the same thing as -1. -1's a real number. I want real numbers in my problem. I don't want imaginary numbers if I can get rid of them. So I'm going to replace it with -1. Everything else is going to stay exactly the same. Okay, so again, all I did was take out the I squared, replace it with a -1. So 3 times -1 now becomes -3, and -4i stays the same. Do not replace it if it's just I. You only replace I squared. I'm going to say it again. You do not replace I with square root of -1. You only replace I squared with just -1. That's the only time you replace. Okay, feel free to pause there if you need to. All right, moving on. Same idea. You got to distribute. These are all distributing things. Okay, the first one was just a number, so 2 times 3. Remember, you're multiplying. Distribute means multiply. 2 times 3 becomes 6. Treat this like an x if you need to in your brain. 2 times -x would be -2x, so this is -2i. Check and make sure, can I combine 6 and 2i? Are they like terms? No, they're not. So don't put them together, leave them separate. That's your final answer. I know it seems weird, I know in your brain you want to make it 4i, but don't do it. That's not correct. 4i times I, again, think back to if it was x. If it was 4x times x, I would get 4x squared. Okay, same process here. I times I, still I squared. 4 goes in front. And then I've got 4i times +3. Well, 4 times 3 becomes 12. And then I just tack the I on. Just like it was an x, that's all I do. Normally we would stop there. However, we've got that I squared in there again. Okay, I squared is going to change to -1 like we just talked about. That's the only part I'm replacing. Everything else is staying exactly the same. You're not replacing the regular I. You only replace it when it's got I squared. 4 times -1 is -4. And then you have a 12i there. Again, they're not like terms. You can't combine a number with an imaginary number, so it's just going to stay the way it is. Feel free to stop here. Go back over it if you need to. If you need to look at this video more later, you can. It's going to be posted on Google Classroom. Make sure you understand just these basic ones, because now we're going to step up to the bigger ones. All right, so here, this is where we throw in either box method or rainbow method. Some of you guys called it that, or double distributive, whatever you want to do, it's up to you. I'm going to show box method for one of them, and then I'll show double distributive for another, because those seem to be the most common ones. Pick which way works for you and just go with it. You can pick whichever way you want. Okay, so I'm going to draw my box. So I have 2 plus I. It's a 2 by 2. And I have I minus 4. Okay, and then everything that overlaps is going to be multiplied. So 2 times I is 2I. I times I is I squared. Think of it like x. X times x is x squared. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. And negative 4 times I just gets squished together to look like that. Okay, go ahead and pause here so you can get caught up to that point. Okay, and then I'm going to write it all out. So I have 2I plus I squared minus 8 minus 4I. Alright, now I'm going to deal with my like terms first, then I'm going to then I will deal with my I squareds. If you want to do the I squareds first, that's up to you. I'm going to show it by doing like terms first. Okay, so 2I and negative 4I. I'm adding like terms, so I'm not going to change the exponent. Do not make this I squared. You only treat it like an x. If it was 2x minus 4x, it would be negative 2x. Therefore, it's negative 2I. It's not I squared. You only do that when you're multiplying. I'm not multiplying anymore. Okay, and then I have plus I squared minus 8. Okay, so normally I would stop there because technically those aren't like terms. However, we've been learning this guy is our big troublesome. I squared has to change to negative 1. Again, everything else is going to stay the same. Okay, so all I've done is replace or substitute I squared with negative 1. Now, though, I've got more like terms I can deal with. Negative 1 and negative 8 can be put together. They make negative 9. And then I have minus 2. Again, I got to put the number out in front. The imaginary number goes second. Here's my final answer for that one. Pause here so that you can copy down the work and discuss as needed. I'm going to go over and start this one now. I'm going to do double distributive for this one. All that means is that I'm doing this times this times this, that, and this one. You might know it as FOIL if your school taught you that in middle school. If you want to do box method, go for it. I'm just showing both ways so that you have a little variety. So my red one is 3I times 2I. Okay, well 3 times 2 is 6. I times I is I squared because I'm multiplying. The green one is 3I times positive 1. Well, 3 times positive 1 is 3. And then I still have an I there. It's not getting multiplied by anything, so I just tack it on at the end. Negative 2 times 2I. Well, negative 2 times positive 2 is minus 4. And then again, I have an I tacked on. Okay, still got to include that. And then the last part, negative 2 times positive 1. Hopefully that's the easiest part of the whole thing. That's negative 2. Okay, so far all I've done is distribute all of my pieces of my puzzle. Haven't combined anything yet, just FOIL, double distribute, box method, whatever you do, you're just getting your pieces together. Okay, now I can look for my like terms. Okay, well I've got positive 3I and negative 4I. Okay, well again, I'm adding and subtracting. I'm not going to change the i's. They're not going to combine, they're just going to become I at the end, just like if it was x. So positive 3 minus 4, well that's negative 1, and then I still have to put the I at the end. If you want to make the 1 look more like a 1, you can. Still a 1. And then I have plus 6I squared minus 2. And some of you might already see we've got an issue we got to deal with. We got to change this right here. What is that changing to? It's got to change to to negative 1. Again, everything else is going to remain exactly the same. I still have negative 1i. I still have a plus 6 in front, but now it's times negative 1, and I have minus 2 at the end. Again, all I've done is substitute negative 1 for I squared. That's all I'm doing to this problem, one step at a time. If you want to do it faster and skip some steps as you go through, that's great, as long as you're comfortable with what you're doing. Don't skip steps when you're first learning material. That's just silly. So I have negative 1i. Now it's minus 6, because 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. Minus 2. Like terms now are negative 6 and negative 2. Put them together, I get negative 8. And then it's still minus 1i. We talked about previously that I could just simplify it and get rid of the 1. So if you want, you can make it look like this. You think that looks prettier? Doesn't really matter. They're both equally correct. I personally prefer the second one because I don't like having the 1i. I think it looks weird. But it's up to you. We will take it if you put the 1i. That's all right. Just make sure you keep the sign the same and that you put the negative 8 out in front. Okay, pause here so that you can copy if you need to. And last example, I believe. Yes, it is. Last example. All right, so this guy right here, this does not mean that you multiply 2 to each part. A lot of you do that. Do not do it. Okay? Squared means times itself. This whole thing is what's getting multiplied twice, which means it's really this. It's 2 plus 5i times 2 plus 5i. You multiply the same thing twice. Okay, I'm going to do box method here again. If you want to do double distributive, you go for it. If you want to do FOIL, you go for it. If you want to do box method, you go for that too. That's what I'm doing. Whatever floats your boat. I don't really care, as long as you get the right answer. If you get the wrong answer, then you need to do what we do. Okay, same thing written on both parts. Now you're multiplying again. 2 times 2 gives me 4. 2 times 5 is 10. And there's an I tacked on at the end. Don't really do anything with that, just attach it. 5 times 2 is also 10. And there's another I. Don't forget, you have I times I in that last part. So 5 times 5 is 25. I times I is I squared. We will deal with that later. Don't fix it right now. You are just learning this. Stop skipping steps if you're doing that. Okay, you're going to miss easy stuff if you do. Okay, and there's all of our terms written out. Again, I'm going to get rid of my like terms first. I know 10i plus 10i is 20i. It's not I squared. I'm not multiplying it. I know I've said that a lot, but people will still do it. So I say it a lot. Everybody else stays the same. Normally we would stop there if they were x squared, and just the number, but we know that this guy provides a little bit of an issue. So we're going to change that to -1, and everybody else just stays the same. Some of you might have already figured out what this is going to become. 25 times -1 is really just -25. That's really all it does to it. It doesn't really change anything else. Okay, and again, check and see, do I have some like terms? Why, yes, I do. I have a 4 and a -25. Be careful with your negatives. Please don't mess that up. 4 minus 25 is the same as -21. And then right after it, I put my imaginary number. Again, this is going to be posted on Google Classroom, so if you want to go back and rehear the lesson, wouldn't be a bad idea if you're struggling. Otherwise, go back into a different part of the lesson if you need to, or pause here to get that copied.